Let's discuss these latest developments now with David DeRoche, who's a professor at the National Defense University. He's joining us from Washington, D.C. Good to have you with us on Al Jazeera, David. So tell me what you think about what's happening right now. We've seen explosions in the night sky at the border between Israel and Lebanon. At least 4 airstrikes in the last hour carried out on the southern areas of Beirut. Residents sought to evacuate as well. Has the invasion of Lebanon begun in earnest?
Well, there's certainly a sustained attack. I think Israel's working down a target list. They have a list of priority targets that they're working down. I don't think that they will conduct an invasion as we saw in the 90s or in 2006, but I do think that there will be a period of raids, limited incursions directed at specific locations. And indeed, the Israeli army just tweeted out, I think in the last hour, specific houses that they were going to target and telling people around those to get out. So I think they've learned from 2006. It is difficult terrain to operate in, as your correspondent noted. And, you know, if you get in there, it's very hard to get out. So I think what we'll see are a series of strikes against specific facilities to destroy weapons storage facilities, launch facilities, command facilities, and then a retreat back across the border.
Yeah, and Hezbollah in just the last few minutes has said it targeted Israeli troops carrying out movements at the border with Lebanon. And as you say, its military strategists have said that a ground invasion would be something very difficult for Israel, that Lebanon, that Hezbollah rather, could have the advantage there. Do you think that's still the case today? How difficult a battle is it if they were to go in full force into Lebanese territory?
Well, it's less difficult than it would have been before the pager attacks and the disruption of Hezbollah's command and control. So historically, Hezbollah has been very successful because it operates as a network. So you have people who don't wear uniforms, are civilians for all intents and purposes. But then when there's a notification that there's an Israeli helicopter landed at point X, they get the word and they all converge. It's very hard to counter that, very hard to deal with it. As far as we can tell right now, Hezbollah communications are still severely disrupted, and the commanders who would order those, for the most part, are dead or in hiding. So Israel has a finite window before Hezbollah is able to reestablish communications, where they can conduct these sorts of operations in a lower threat environment.
Just to clarify, you know, how you see this unfolding, they say the goal of the operation is to allow for residents in northern Israel to return to their homes. But how will they go about doing this? I mean, we've heard that there's been a limited incursion already. Are we going to see this continue to happen? Will they move up incrementally into Lebanese territory, or will they go in full force?
I don't think, well, I think that they will maintain the option of going in full force if they think that they see, for example, Hezbollah forces concentrating against one of their incursions. They will retain the ability to conduct a broader attack in order to draw forces away from that. But it appears to me that what they're trying to do is make sure that there are no storage facilities or firing facilities south of the Litani River that cannot be effectively targeted by Israeli air power. And I think that if they can clear that out, then most of the low-range sorts of weapons that Hezbollah would use against northern Israel will not be capable of being employed.
David, let me ask you about something that's come out from the Pentagon. What does the U.S. mean when it says it's putting U.S. troops on standby, when it says that the troops will be they're preparing to deploy order? What does that mean exactly? Would the U.S. be providing any support to Israel?
I think that we would only provide support to Israel if there were another missile and drone attack from Iran. I think that given that the United States has said don't go into Lebanon and has generally opposed this, I think that really what they're there for is a possible evacuation of U.S. citizens. There's a substantial number of U.S. citizens in Lebanon and in Israel. Depending on how the war goes, we might be involved in that.
Yeah, you say the U.S. is opposed to this, but they're not exactly stopping Israel from going into Lebanese territory right now.
Well, there's a question of what we can do. You know, there's a misconception that somewhere in Washington there's a switch, and if it's flicked, the Israeli Air Force falls from the sky. But Israel has an ample defense industry. They have years of war stocks built up, and they see a finite window with a U.S. president who is perhaps more ineffectual than any president in my lifetime, except maybe Richard Nixon at the end of his term. So I think they realize that the ability of the United States to exert significant, meaningful consequences for defying them are limited. And so they're going to do what they see as a once-in-a-generation opportunity to secure northern Israel.
Thank you for speaking to us. David DeRoche joining us there from Washington, D.C.
It's an honor.